Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, go ahead and you can drop your name in the chat, where you're from. We'll get started here in a few moments. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hey, what's up? Dad
How's it
bod.
going, Taz? What's going
All
on?
right, what yourself? Right. We give people one more minute just to trickle in. Right. We got a good group. So I think that people can see my screen. Go ahead and drop your name and where you're from in the chat. Just to give everybody a sense for who's in the room. And we're gonna get started here today. I really appreciate everybody joining the call. I think you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here. I think I really appreciate that. And love seeing the familiar faces. And yeah, want to talk to you guys about this grant opportunity and about the work that Outright is doing, and about the work that we could do together, hopefully going forward. Um, my name is Chaz Robinson. I'm the programs leader here at Outright, and here to talk to you more about the Community Impact Grant and what this is all about, and how you can submit an application and proposal for a potential funding opportunity. So, yeah, please continue to drop your name. Please continue to introduce yourself in the chat. And if anything, you have a question about anything at any time, just put it in the chat and we'll get to it. We'll have a section at the end of the meeting here today for questions, and as we go through, I can answer questions as well. But yeah, we're here to talk about the Community Impact Grant. Some of you might have known Outright's grant making work to fall under the term the Outright Fund in the past, but we've taken a new direction with the brand, and we think this is more understandable for what we're trying to do. We're trying to create impact in local communities across the country as it relates to cycling, as it relates to cycling and its ability to be a positive benefit to your social, emotional, and cognitive health. And this is what this grant is about. We're going to get into the details and get into the nitty gritty of what this means and what this opportunity can mean for you and your organization today. As I mentioned, my name is Chaz Robinson. I'm going to introduce the rest of the Outright team in a moment, but wanted to introduce myself. I've been the program manager for our grant programs for the past 2 years. I started back in 2022. This will be the third community grant cycle that I'll be running, but also involved in managing our other grant program called Writing for Focus. And yeah, I just wanted to just share a couple of details about myself so you know who's on the call. I've got a dog named Jack who's back home right now. I'm in the office, but he's usually in the background. But I think you should just know that I'm going to be the voice on the other end of the email, the voice on the other end um, of the call, and your liaison between the grant committee, our board, and our decision makers, and your advocate in this process. So if you need help, if you need support, if you have questions, then I'm your man. So, but working alongside me is this team here. Um, these are the folks that do the amazing work that we have the privilege of being a part of. So, David Wood is our leader, our manager. Esther Walker leads our research work. Bree works alongside me on the program side, and Lauren is working alongside um, Esther with the research work. And I'll tell you more about sort of these different areas of work as well as it all relates. But this is the team, and these are the folks who you will no doubt come to know if you maybe if you're already a part of the Outright community, but if you become a part of the Outright community, these are the folks that you'll come to know and work with. So um, for today's call, let me just give you the overview, the agenda, what we're going to do. Hopefully, keeping you for no longer than about 45 minutes. But nonetheless, we'll do an outright general overview so you just understand what we're all about. We'll give you an overview of the grant program. So not only this program, the Community Impact Grant, but also Writing for Focus, which is connected, integrated with this work. Then we'll talk about eligibility and our general guidelines. We'll talk about selection criteria and what it takes to be a competitive applicant. And then we'll take your questions and your answers. And please, just don't hesitate to reach out in the chat here and drop your questions. If you have any confusion at all, just speak up. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about what Outride's all about and who we are. So Outride really started with a question back in 2012 or so from our founder, Mike Senior, who is also the founder of Specialized Bicycle Components. How can cycling improve social, emotional, and cognitive health? That was really what he was interested in at the time. He was a person who suffered from ADHD, still suffers from ADHD, and uses his bike in order to feel better. And I think that he translated that to a broader approach and started to work with different research institutions like Stanford to research this idea and think about how this can be applied throughout the cycling world. And that's how the organization was born, right? Our mission has become this. We provide research, cycling programs, and funding to empower all people to experience the social, emotional, and cognitive benefits of cycling, right? We all know that when we ride, when we get on our bike, when we get out, that that has a certain effect. And I think that we can all attest to that anecdotally, but we also know through our research that this really does have a profound impact on our mental health, on our cognitive health, on our ability to just go about our day, and our ability to cope with all the things that we have to. And I think that's what the mission of Outright is all about. That's what our research is all about, and that's what the Community Impact Grant is all about. I think it's really important to keep this mission in mind as you think about your crafting your application. As you think about going about this work and partnering with us, this is really sort of central to everything that we do. And I think that we're all about increasing the access to these benefits. That's what we hope the Community Impact Grant will do. That's what we hope Writing for Focus will do. That's what we hope our collective work will do. Let's talk more about those three different pillars, those three different programs I mentioned before. My colleague Esther leads the research work, so she's working with different institutions like I mentioned, Stanford, the University of Wyoming, Loma Linda University, just to name a few of the organizations that we're working with who are really doing interesting research and study on this question that I just mentioned: how can cycling improve our social, emotional, cognitive health? And then we apply that through our programs and our grant work. So Writing for Focus is our school-based program. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then the Community Impact Grant, which is our program that's really geared towards nonprofits and those working around and with our schools and also just in their own local community, right? Here's some of the impact that we've been able to accomplish just in the past year. We have 58 different schools just this year who got a grant for Writing for Focus. We had about 46 other community impact grants that went out. We were able to grant to those schools and various communities around 2,000 bikes. We were able to all together do about $1.5 million in funding. And we're featured all over the different publications, and we're able to secure different research grants to support this work. And so this work that you're thinking about now, that you're contemplating now, interested in now, is a part of this and will continue to be in years going forward. I was thinking this is a nice testament to talk about these sort of these metrics and sort of understand the scope of the work that we're a part of. So yeah, like I mentioned, again, this is the team that does this work, and this is the team that makes this happen. And feel free at any point to reach out to any of us about the work, about the research, about our different grant programs, and connect. And that information is all available at outridebike.org. Um, and my email is easy enough, chaz@outridebike.org, and that is all again on the website. So now that you've got sort of the big picture, what Outride's all about and what we do, and let's talk about these specific grant programs and funding opportunities. Um, so, our grant making mission is really to invest in programs that increase access to these social, emotional, and cognitive benefits of cycling. So, it's the work that you're doing in your community with, Earn a Bike. It's the work that you're doing in your community with uh, Learn to Ride programs. It's the work that you're doing with racing teams and building pump tracks and all these different things that have to come together in order for people to really be able to really access this, which is having the bike, having the programming, and having the support, right? We want to invest in those programs and we want to be a partner in those programs, right? So let's see. Melissa, you should be seeing a slide deck. Is anybody else not able to see the slide deck? Melissa was saying she can't see the slide deck. Maybe can someone confirm you're seeing a slide deck? And maybe it's a Melissa problem. Okay. Yeah, Melissa, I'm not sure. I think other people are saying they can see it. Uh, stand by. Stand by. Maybe something I can do while I'm talking here, but other people are saying they can see it. So I'm gonna move forward, and maybe it might be something on your end, Melissa. Um, so as we talk about the grant making mission, like I said, like these are the things we want to support, and what we're going to be talking about today. So there's really two different programs here that we have that I mentioned already. There's Riding for Focus, which is our school-based program. Some of you might already be involved with Riding for Focus through your local school. Some of you might not know anything about that, but I think as a part of this process, you should really gain an understanding of our Riding for Focus program as well, because it's going to be tied into being a competitive applicant for the Community Impact Grant. It's not necessary that you partner or that you incorporate Riding for Focus into your programming, but it is a part of our comprehensive approach to creating cycling ecosystems, right? You think about the way that you might have become involved in organized sports. Oftentimes it was at school first, and then, maybe an after school program or a summer program, and other resources, so that's what Riding for Focus is for us. It's that in school work. And then the Community Impact Grant is that beyond out of school work that we all think here at Outride needs to happen in order to create these ridership and increase ridership. So um, that's really, these are the two grant programs, and let me talk more about how they're different, right? So Riding for Focus is an in-kind grant. If you apply as a Riding for Focus grantee, you're going to get a fleet of bikes. You're going to get curriculum training support, right? That's primarily, again, for public middle schools. For this Community Impact Grant, what we're here today to talk about is our monetary grant offering, right? That's where you're going to get a check, and you're going to get support in that way, and you're going to get access to the Outride community. Oftentimes, folks will sort of confuse these two opportunities. So I really want to make sure that it's clear that Riding for Focus is a separate grant for schools. Community Impact Grant is primarily for nonprofits or for those organizations that can work with a nonprofit, or that have a general nonprofit mission, like government agencies and school districts. I'll talk more about eligibility in a moment. But yeah, please don't hesitate to really become clear about what these two different grant opportunities are about, because you'll want to make sure you're applying for the right opportunity. Okay. So let's see. Just some brass tacks and housekeeping. The deadline for this grant, this first window, is March 1st. Okay, 2025. It'll open on Monday, December 10th. You can start applying then. There's no benefit at all to submitting a fast application. There's no benefit at all to being one of the first applicants or anything like that. So take your time. As you learn about this information today, go and read the FAQ, follow up with me and have a conversation. But just make sure that everything comes together in the next few months by March 1st. And this link here, which is, again, on our website and in anywhere, outright.smaapply.org is our application platform where you'll be able to see both of these grant opportunities, but make sure you click on Community Impact Grant. All right. So let's see. Yeah, Melissa, I'm not sure about the issue there, but there's a copy of the slide deck and the recording that'll be available to you. I apologize. I'm not sure why you're having that particular issue. It doesn't sound like it's universal, so I do apologize. All right, let's talk about eligibility. Okay, who is eligible for this particular opportunity? So for this particular opportunity, you have to be a nonprofit with 501c3 status, or you have to have a fiscal sponsor. A fiscal sponsor is a relationship or an arrangement where if you've not attained that 501c3 status, you can work with a nonprofit who has, right? And they can essentially receive donations on your behalf. That's what that arrangement is in a nutshell. It's just a way for us to be able to maintain tax deductible status and so forth. Okay, and you can find much more information about that arrangement online and also in our FAQ and grant guidelines. So also eligible applicants for this grant opportunity are going to be local government agencies, like a school district, like a city of district, a city agency, so forth, including current Writing for Focus schools. So it's also available to those folks who have been, those schools who have also gotten the Writing for Focus grant, and they want to extend the program. They want to do more with the program. They want to buy more equipment, etc. So that is, those are the eligible applicants, right? I think important to note that you should go and read the full grant guidelines that could also tell you who's not eligible in particular, such as religious institutions, individuals, and folks who are part of those type of organizations are not eligible for this grant. I think I'd be remiss to say that, everybody who applies for this grant is not going to receive funding, right? So even if you're an eligible applicant, you might not receive funding. I think perhaps that's obvious, but I just want to make sure that people understand this is a competitive application, a competitive program, and that even if you're one of these folks, you might not receive funding. So just really important to understand. Please ask any questions about these eligibility requirements, and please go read the full grant guidelines at outrightbike.org. So moving right along, we're going to talk about our selection criteria, okay? And this is the information that our grant committee will be using. These are the domains our grant committee will be using to assess competitiveness for the grant. And it falls along these 4 domains. And there's a rubric for each one of these with a score that the grant committee will be using. And it is also available to you in order to work backwards and understand the different criteria. But I'm just going to go over them at a super high level so that you understand the different things that we're doing to assess the applications. There's mission alignment, there's impact, there's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and there's development and sustainability. Mission alignment is really all about your ability to line up with that mission I talked about earlier, social, emotional, cognitive health benefits of cycling. You have to be doing something that is a focus on that. You have to be doing something that is a testament to that. And that could be just be, your own mission. It could be your programming, the materials that you're using. There has to be a focus on that because that's our mission. That's what we care about as it relates to cycling. And so we're going to be looking for folks who are a part of that as well, right? And so impact is really about your goals, your track record in your organization, your outcomes, what you've done before, and how they can, how a grant from Outright can continue to impact that, continue to be a part of that. There'll be a section in the application where you will need to sort of testify to this and bring together materials in order to make that apparent to the grant committee. Then there'll be a section here about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We all know that there's a high bar to access to cycling, and as a part of our own priorities, we were trying to increase that access. And so we want our applicants, our grantees, to have a plan for how they're going to do this, for how they're going to bring in underrepresented groups, for how they're going to make sure that their programming is really inclusive and really available to a broad range of groups. Okay. And then finally, the next domain is going to be around development and sustainability. That's really your ability to say, what other support do you have? How do you make sure your work is going to last into the future? And how this grant is a part of a broader development strategy. And I'll go into a little bit more about fiscal guidelines, a little bit more about budgeting in a moment. But just know that these things are going to be a part of what the grant committee is looking at, and each application section is going to be tailored to one of these particular domains. Okay. Now, let's talk about some general tips as you approach your application, as you approach this work. So it's really important that, obviously, that you set a clear and measurable goal for the grant term. Think about a SMART goal, something that's specific, measurable, attainable, and so forth. You guys know that acronym, perhaps it'll be spelled out to you, but it's really about being specific about what you want to accomplish. And I think that it's really about making sure that you have something that you can measure in the long term. Okay, generally speaking. Again, we all know that cycling has an impact on our social emotional health, but we really want to have a focus on this with our grantees. We really want to have a focus on this in the programming that we support. And if you don't have some sort of focus on that, if you don't have some sort of testament to your willingness to incorporate that to your programming, you're not going to have a particularly competitive application for this grant opportunity. Okay. Again, and I think the key word here is having a plan. I think a lot of folks understand the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, but don't necessarily have a concrete action plan for how they're going to incorporate this into their work. Have a plan, have some set of steps, learnings, ideas for how you want to really make this happen, and really be able to talk about that. That's going to make your application really stand out. Okay, having a plan, not just a idea, or not just having a willingness, right? And then again, if you can, make sure that you can clearly demonstrate your sustainability, have a list of your donors, your other donors, have a list of grants that you're also going to be reaching out to, because we want to understand that how our dollars are going to fit into a broader set of a broader strategy that your organization has. So if you can do these things, you're going to stand out from the bunch. And again, I think it's really about having those concrete, specific things that you're doing that testify to each of these specific parts of the grant application. Okay. Moving right along to reporting for this grant. Every grant comes along with a set of reporting. How do we evaluate? How do we stay in touch? I think as a general note, Outright is really seeking not to be transactional with these grants. We really do want to develop a relationship with your organization. We really do want to understand what you're doing. We also don't want to be in your way, and we also don't want to micromanage anything that's relating to the grant. So with that being said, the requirement that we have for reporting is an annual survey. There's not going to be a need to submit like a quarterly expense report or anything like that, but there is going to be an annual survey of the results and outcomes for each year of the grant. So that's important to note. So for instance, if you were to get a grant in next May, there'd be an annual survey that you would need to submit in May 2026, for instance. Another thing that we really appreciate but don't require are stories and pictures and videos of your work in action. Like you can see here in the photos I've included from our grantees. We really appreciate that. And then again, we would love to be a support system to you and meet when necessary. So that's just a part of something we like to say, like, we can be as involved as you would like us to be, or as little as you would like us to be. But we like to have a relationship, and that's really the reporting strategy that we have, is if we can check in, we can be a support system, we would love to do that. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about fiscal guidelines and budgeting and sort of what you can expect in that realm of things, because I know that's always going to be a question. What's the grant amount that I can expect to receive as a part of this opportunity? And what's the restriction? So our philosophy is that this is going to be an unrestricted opportunity with some conditions. So we're not going to say to you as a grantee that you have to spend your grant funding on bikes, for instance. We're not going to say that you have to spend it on staff or payroll. That's going to be up to you. You know, what we trust that you have an understanding of what your organization needs. And so we don't have any perspective on the particular line items. What we do have a perspective on is this work going to be used towards something that's aligned with our mission? Is it going to be used on something that's directly benefiting your local community? Is it going to be used on something that is really pushing that work forward? And we'll want to know and understand what those expenditures are without having any type of desire to necessarily, you know, dictate them. Okay, I think that makes sense. I think that's reasonable, and that's the approach that we have with our grant funding, and whether it's restricted or what have you. I think there is always a question that comes up around, well, we're an organization that focuses on a lot of different things, not just cycling. You know, we're a boys and girls club. We have after school programs. We have a lot of different things going on, not just cycling. So in the case like that, you know, our approach again, just our hopefully commonsensical approach is that we're going to fund and be interested in the particular cycling work that you're doing, and hope the funding goes towards those things as opposed to funding your entire organization. Okay, so hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Again, we really do not seek to be your only funder. We think that our position as a funder and in the philanthropy space is not such that we can be your anchor funder, your biggest funder. Um, so having evidence of other support is really extremely important. You know, like who are the other brand partners that you have, even if it's not necessarily monetary funding, maybe it's volunteer support, maybe it's in-kind support. Really having understanding of this other apparatus and network of support is really important. Okay. Um, Craft a thoughtful and detailed budget for this work. Really get as nuanced as you can be about how you're going to spend the funds. And again, we're not gonna say you have to spend it on this, you have to spend it on that, but we do want to understand before we send you the check, what's that going to be. If you can be as thoughtful and detailed as you can be, that's going to be really important. We know it'll change. We know it'll be amendments. We have a process for budget amendments, but just know that we're going to be looking at how thoughtful and detailed that budget is, and it's going to be a part of it. Okay. So what can you expect? Um, these grants are going to be somewhere in the range of 5 to 15K annually on average. In rare cases where we've worked with an organization before, or where there's a really integrated strategic tie to our other work, we will be considering multi-year grants at a higher amount. But again, you'll have to be, I think, in a really special, like 99th percentile group to get that. But I think most applicants are going to receive a grant that's somewhere between 5K and 15K, and it's going to be, you know, a one lump sum annually, or a one-time lump sum for an annual grant for a 1 year grant period. Okay, so that's the info there. What's the process? What's going to happen when you go on December 10th and open up the application? What can you expect to see? Okay, so what we're doing now is we're learning. We're at the frequently asked questions. We're at the webinar. All right, go and apply. Put together your application by March 1st. From March to around May, hopefully a little bit earlier, we're going to be reviewing applications. We're going to be working with our grant committee to understand, and maybe we'll reach out to you for clarification. Maybe we'll need to have some other documentation about your proposal. That will be happening in that period. Sometime before the summer of 2025, you'll understand and be notified of your grant award and the terms, and we'll enter into sort of a negotiation period around things and how that's happening. And then again, you'll be expected to report on the grant at least 1 year from now, there in 2026. Okay, so that's the process. We've tried to make it really as simple as possible. We've tried to make it really as straightforward as possible, but this is the way that it's going to go. This is the timeline that you can expect as you go about planning your budget, planning your potential and projected fundraising opportunities. Okay. Um, let's talk about one important aspect before I open it up to sort of everybody's questions, which is this idea of partnering with a Writing for Focus school. That's why I mentioned earlier that you really need to understand our different grant opportunities and really understand our grant strategy, right? We know that, in-school opportunities are really important. That's what we do with our other grant, Writing for Focus. But what happens when those students really get the bug for writing and want to join a racing team? They really want to join a beyond school team. They really want to do an adventure trip, right? That's where we think this community impact grant can be really beneficial, right? So if you're able to, with your organization and your programming, work with one of our schools, and we have a list and we have a map of all of our schools. Maybe there's one near you. Maybe there isn't one near you, but you know a school that could benefit from that program, and you work together with that school for them to submit an application, and then you also submit a community impact grant. And so there's a integrated approach there. That's something that's going to be really competitive. That's something that's going to be really interesting to our grant committee and really interesting to our funding strategy, right? So if you can do that, if you can put that together, if you can put together a plan that really makes that happen, then I think you will have a competitive advantage. I know you'll have a competitive advantage. And so what you need to do is, understand Writing for Focus. We have a lot of information about that grant. We have a lot of information about who those schools are, and we're open to we have an application period right now happening for new schools. So go and tell your local middle school teacher about that opportunity and start to work together. Even if it's just a thing where, you're providing support for recruitment or for maintenance, if you can just testify to a partnership there, that would be really competitive. It's not required. It's not required. If you're just not to that point in your programming where you can start to work with different partners and work with different entities, then don't worry about it. Just submit the strongest application that you can about the work that you're doing now, and it will be considered. It will be a part of our work, and you still have a chance to be funded. But just know that as a part of our comprehensive grant making strategy, we want to work with schools, and we want to work with communities and geographies that create sort of an ecosystem of support for cycling work. So I want it to be, as broad as possible and general as possible here. There's, of course, more information that can be had on our website through our grant guidelines. But also, I just want to leave time for y'all's questions. We have about 10 to 15 more minutes for folks to come off mute if you would like, or you can drop a question in the chat if you would like. And I can try and give you some more context, try and give you some more information here in person if you would like. But yeah, didn't want to have too prolonged of a presentation here. Wanted to give you the nuts and bolts and the basics, and go from there. If that sounds good. But yeah, please come off mute if you would like, or drop your questions in the chat, or feel free to enjoy the rest of your Thursday as you go ahead. So yeah, if I'm here, please go ahead if you have any questions or ideas or comments. As you're thinking about that, I forgot I actually do have some quick FAQs that people always ask. So how many grants are you going to award this year? We usually do somewhere in the range of actually 40 to 50, but this year we're thinking that it may be closer to 20 to 25, just FYI. How much total will you award? On average, we do about 350K a year for this particular opportunity. Again, do you have to partner with the Writing for Focus School? You do not have to partner with the Writing for Focus School, but just know that if you are able to do that, if you're able to submit a plan like that, you'll be more competitive. Again, what does that partnership look like? It could be, recruiting you from a school that has Writing for Focus to participate in your programs. It may be that you can run programs together. It'll just depend on that relationship. And then I guess, is this grant unrestricted? Yes, but you will need to explicitly specify how you will spend the funds and have that be a part of your work. Okay, Wesley asked, how many times can you reapply? Maybe can you say more about that question? This is you'll be able to apply um, this year, and then if you get the grant, you'll be eligible to apply again in the next, not the next consecutive grant cycle, but the one after that. You can't get a grant consecutive years if that's what you're asking. But you can apply as many times as you need to until you're funded. I think that's what you're asking, Wesley. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay.
Chaz, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Can more than one person work on the application at a time in the portal?
Yeah, so there's a once you get into SurveyMonkey, which is the application portal, there'll be one primary applicant, and then you'll be able to add collaborators. So from your organization who will be able to also contribute to the application.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Alejandro, you have your hand raised here.
Yes, hi. From Florida. If I understand correctly, this one is not geared primarily towards middle school, right? It can be elementary schools as well, because we partner with about 50 elementary schools with the program that we have.
Right. So this particular opportunity is schools are eligible. You don't have to be a middle school. You don't have to be any
No, no.
particular kind of
So
school.
no,
But
we're a nonprofit organization, and then we work
okay.
with about 50 elementary schools in the county.
Okay. That's great.
Okay, got it.
That's right. Yeah, you would be eligible as a nonprofit in elementary schools as a part of your partnerships. That's fine. Yep. What other questions do we have, if any, at this time?
Hi, Chaz. This is Jim. Can you hear me?
Yep.
My program is a new program, is a startup. So showing those outcomes from previous, having that data to share wouldn't be ideal in this scenario. Would that automatically eliminate us from contention, or could you just talk about that scenario?
Yeah, I would say generally speaking, the most competitive grantees for these programs, for this program, is going to be one that maybe has had a little bit of a track record, and has had a little bit of time to showcase their impact and their efficacy. But it's not to say that if your program is maybe being a startup program, if you've got other funders that are already excited about it and like already ready to go, Outright would be interested perhaps in becoming a part of that consortium, that funding consortium, if you're able to demonstrate that there's other support that's really ready to go, you've already secured it, you've already sort of got that going. If we're the first mover, I don't think that would be something we're terribly interested in, if you understand what I mean. So I think that's the way that I would think about that from, a grant committee perspective and from our strategy perspective.
Sure, that's fair. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. So John is asking, where can we find a list of the schools that have Outright? So what you have to do is go to our website, go to outrightbike.org. Okay. Click on Writing for Focus. And on that page, you're going to be able to see a map of all the schools and where they are in the country. That's also on our community impact grant page as well. It's linked in both of those places. So you'll be able to click on it and just see in the country where all the different schools are. And if you want to say maybe reach out to some of them, reach out to me, and I can provide you with a connection, and we can go from there. All right, Wesley, I think you might need to give me a little bit more um, context on your question if you can. If you can come off mute and just kind of tell me what you mean by what you mean by what I mean by support, if you can.
Hi, yeah, no worries. It says I was looking at the slide. It says cash and support. Like, I'm wondering, like, what does support mean exactly?
Yeah, support. So that's just like what do we mean there is so you'll get the check, but you'll also have access to the sort of brain trust of the outright team and the outright community, right? So if you want to have a connection to another nonprofit that's doing this work or has done this work, maybe we can connect you to, and they can support you in the work. If you have questions or need resources there for other types of development, oftentimes we'll do like webinars, we'll do events across the country where we are sort of reaching out to folks. That can be a part of that support. It's a really general term, and I understand sort of it's really general. It's just the cash is one thing, but you can also, it's not going to be just cash, right? It can be connections to our partners in the bike industry, right? We're supported by a number of brands in the bike industry. Um, Introductions to other types of folks who can help and support. And if you ever have a question about anything, you can just ring our line and we'll try and help you. It's not just a check and buy.
That sweet. That sounds good. Y'all also do, if let's say we're doing like a little fundraiser, y'all can share out like what we're doing on social media, help fundraise some stuff too. Is that
Yeah, we
something
do
y'all
that from
could do?
time to time as well.
Cool.
Yeah,
Sweet. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
great, great. Um, yeah, uh, I'm gonna stay on the line for a while. If y'all can have further questions, by all means. But I really appreciate everybody's being here today. For the 40 or so minutes we've had to spend together. And yeah, be sure to log on sometime between now and March 1st and submit an application. Reach out to me with further questions, and yeah, we're ready to move this work forward and get going. So thank you guys a lot. I'll be
Can
online.
you
I'll be on here for a month too. Go ahead.
can you share your email in the chat?
Yeah, yeah, yep.
That'd be
It's
great.
just
Thank you.
Chaz at outrightbike.org. Here we go.
Hey, Chaz, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So I'm at Bike Pittsburgh. We've helped now 4 Pittsburgh public schools, middle schools, apply for and receive outright Riding for Focus programs. Thank you very much.
Of course.
But we're in a situation where neither our organization or many of the school buildings, I think, have adequate personnel to help them really get the most out of their programs. In this scenario, we could apply for this grant to fund personnel to help the schools out, or the schools could apply for this grant to have funds to help support their own programs. Could both apply for it, like both our organization and the school district?
That's right. As long as that's right. Both the school could apply, your organization could apply, as long as the expenditures and things that they're looking to support are different, right? Um, and if they're the same, then I would say just have one entity apply, right? If you're looking to do the exact same thing or spend money on the exact same things. Um, so I guess, for instance, what I'm saying is if the school wanted to apply and get more bikes or something, or more equipment or a storage shed or something, that's great. Apply for that. And then your organization applies for staffing or payroll or whatever the case may be, but just don't apply for the same thing, you know?
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Great. All righty. I think most people have signed off, so, or maybe not. I was looking at the wrong screen. Go ahead, Ted. Ted, you got your hand up?
Oh, you just answered my question, so.
Oh, that was you. Okay.
Thank
I
you.
thought you said your name was something different. All good. Um, cool. I'm not seeing any other hands raised or any other questions in the chat. Maybe Jake typing something here. You can also come off mute if you can. You don't want to type everything out, but up to you.
I have another question. Do y'all ever do like any site visits or anything like that?
Yeah, from time to time we do. We do visit our grantees from time to time. Yeah, for sure.
Sweet, thank you.
No, I was just gonna say
Right.
thank you. I appreciate the time. So appreciate the webinar, and I'll be in touch soon. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming to the meeting. All right, y'all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, we'll stop it here. Have a good one.